Good morning and welcome to Fat Cow Farm. Now, I have been waiting for this little bit of kit here to turn up for months. Now, what this is here, this is the Kubota Flail Mower. Now, this is the SE3185. Now, this is pretty much designed for this size of machine. So it's 1.8 long as a part of the cutting disc. And it's got like a hydraulic shift on it, and I'll show you that a little bit later. But the reason we've gone to the expense of doing something like this, now there's a few things that's happened. We've had the goats come through this paddock, and what they've done is killed all the blackberries, which is fantastic. But with them eating all the leaves and the blackberry brambles dying off, the thorns and the brambles are still sort of spread out, I suppose, over a grass period. So what we've got is, you can see here, we've got a dead cane, a few little leaves sitting on it. But what's happening, and what I'm noticing, is that you can see the spread of what these brambles have done. So what I've done is I sent up a drone to take some footage of this particular paddock. And I was amazed on how much space or surface area we were actually losing to the spread of these blackberries. Now, the figures came through at 27% of this paddock alone was taken up by these brambles, and that was just sort of done on the computer. Now, 27%, I mean, you know, that's just over a quarter of this space not being utilized by the cows. Now, and you can see that, you know, there's some fairly good grass in there that they're just not getting into. So there was a two-pronged attack here. Firstly, what we thought we would do is then bring in the goats, like what we had discussed, and they have done a fantastic job. So they've spent pretty much a month in here, and they've pretty much knocked off all the blackberries straight away. Now, there are still a few canes that are live, but in saying that, now what we can do is then start reclaiming some of that percentage of land that is not being utilized. Now, 25%, you know, I might as well just put a fence around it. Like, it's big numbers, massive numbers. So the idea being is that the flail mulches things so tight. Oh, let me find some. Look at this. You know, so that's broken down just with one pass on the flail. Now, what I'm then now going through the process of is then almost like coop grazing, so to speak. I'm only going to do about a fifth of this paddock, so that firstly I can then break down those bramble, the blackberry canes, and let them pretty much decompose and compost into the soil, so that firstly I'm going to get carbon back into my soils here to help with drainage and growth and everything else. Secondly, I've now evenly cut this little coop section so that the grass is now going to take off, and I've been doing some experiments down at the home paddock on actually how long it takes, and believe me, it's not long. So, you know, I would say within about a week or so, 2 weeks, this will start coming back and the growth will be a lot better. The cows will move in, because remembering that, you know, the cows will only take those tips off the grass, and they'll pretty much avoid any of the loose little mulch with brambles or whatever that's on it. I'm hoping. That's the theory. And so what we're now going to do is, now, sort of like I said, we're going to have that coop grazing effect here. Now, if you look across the paddock, you can see where I've been. So I've now pretty much eliminated a lot of those blackberry brambles through here, and you can see that. And the ones that come back through, we can now manage. So firstly, what we can do is that the goats can come back in after the cows have been here as a part of our rotational grazing, and we'll fence them off into this area. They can manage it, and then also too, we can then start seeing the root balls, which we can then manually remove. So, and that's something that at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this area here is blackberry free. And the only way that I can see that really coming to fruition is that they're actually physically moved from that root ball. And it's not going to hurt. You know, we've got these, we've redesigned a broad fork specifically for the removal of the blackberry roots. And we can show you that on a later video. But I'm pretty pumped up about what's going on here. And you know, like we've been waiting, wow, I think it's almost nearly 7 months for the flail to turn up. They're obviously, with the environment that we're in, you know, a lot of things are taking their time to come from overseas and everything else. But it's finally arrived, and I couldn't help myself, so I quickly had to jump out here and give it a bit of a test and put the theory into practice. So if you just come back this way, you can sort of see where the brambles are. All right, and that's what the cows, they're not getting any close to those brambles, and you can see the grass. So by, again, like I'm hoping that this little experiment actually works, and the cows can have 25% more grazing. We can now manage the blackberries as we see them come up with the goats. So the process, like I said, is that once the cows go through, they'll spend a week in here. We'll bring the goats in and we'll pretty much crop graze them, and away we go, mate. This flail, it is a machine. So basically what the flail is, unlike any other slasher, it uses these hammers. I'm not sure if you can pick that up there, but they're all on pivots with sharp blades. Now, the way that because of the rotation spin being so fast, it's just like one big massive lawnmower, but it finally cuts the grass. It finally cuts the grass so fine that the surface area of whatever you're mulching effectively doesn't need that long to break down, unlike a slasher. And I was thinking that's exactly what we need here. So even over the time where, you know, with the rotational grazing that we have and the camels and the cows have come through, what I can see happening is that if we can then once the cows have come through and we keep our grass at around about 150 mil, we can set the height cut on the flail and just take off the tops. And so it's all then going to give it that little bit of extra spur to start growing again. But then secondly, I'm starting to build up topsoil and mulch the soils that we have here. So that was the whole thought process about the flail itself. Now, this particular one is a hydraulic driven as a side shift, going backwards and or sideways on either side of the tractor, and it's just running on a PTO. And if there's a need out there, we can go through those motions about how to set it up and everything else. But really what I wanted to do was, just because I'm so excited about this guy turning up and now putting our plans into place, in theory, it's going to work. Practicality? Well, let's see over time, but I would be expecting that within, you know, 2, maybe 3 weeks, we'll start seeing some good growth here. The mulch starting to break down and penetrate back into those soils to give us more carbon back into those soils. And mate, that's a win-win for everyone. Win-win for Fat Cow Farm, win-win for the cows, camels, goats, sheep, everyone else who's passing through. So, all about looking at your Kubota Flail and actually doing some experiments with brambles and blackberries and whatever it may be. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.